Welcome to the Action Network studios in New York City. I am Charlie DiSturco. We're live every weekday at 3 p.m. Eastern in the Action app and on the Action Network YouTube channel. If you're watching from YouTube, hello. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps a lot. We have a loaded show today. It's Masters Week, so Spencer Aguiar joins to talk through his favorite bets, breaks down Augusta and Tiger Woods' highly anticipated game. Can he stay durable and make it through the first weekend or the first couple of games? We'll get into that. And then the NBA, we're talking motivation. We're talking how to handicap the rest of the regular season with Jay Money. He's got a couple of spots circled for tonight. But of course, it's the greatest day. It's Tuesday, Dinger Tuesday, everybody. And here's some of the MLB home run projections that we have brought to you by the Action Network Pro app. The three biggest edges of home runs: Vlad Guerrero Jr. plus 500. That's an 8.5% edge based on the market at hand. Ronald Acuna Jr. still looking for his first home run of the season. He does not have a single barrel in 2024, but hit 41 home runs last year. So you know that first one is coming soon. And then the odd man out, or maybe the odd man in, Sal Frelick, 10-1. A near 6% edge. It is a lefty on righty matchup where 30% of Frelick's hits against righties came for extra bases, but he does have the red hot Frankie Montas, who is thrown 11 2/3 of one-run ball. Keeping that in mind, it's Dinger Tuesday, so obviously Anthony Dabbundo is here to give his favorite home run picks, and it wouldn't be the big three without Sean Koerner hopping on to talk strikeouts, hoping to bounce back from Aaron Boone's horrific managerial decisions of throwing Nestor Cortez out for the mid-90s pitch-wise yesterday. So, Anthony, we're just talking home runs. We're talking Dinger Tuesday. So we'll start with you. Your favorite home run prop, or first home run prop, that is, of Tuesday.
Yeah, so I'm going really outside the box here. I'm going to take Mookie Betts at 4-1. Going up against Louis Varland, a pitcher that we faded last week on Dinger Tuesday with Yelich, and we're going to fade him again. He's now allowed 17 homers in 72 MLB innings in the last 2 years. And look, I'm a fan of Varland. I like his stuff. I think it plays, and I think he can be a solid mid-rotation starter. But it's clear now that he has this skill issue of giving up too many homers. And Mookie Betts, it's interesting because, he's multiple-time MVP winner, been great in Boston, great with the Dodgers, but he's taken a leap forward in the last year and a half that I think the projections have kind of undersold his power increase. He did some weighted bats trading before last season, saw a career high in homers, career high in barrel rate, and he's really kept it going into this season. So I think it's something that's notable. It's a skill improvement we've seen from Betts, even, taking his heights and going even higher this year. And he did slug 491 against cutters, which was Varland's top offering against right-handed bats in his first outing of the season, and slugged 637 against fastballs. Varland's going to use a lot of fastballs and a lot of cutters. And it's been that he's left too many over the middle of the plate up in the zone that Betts can drive out of the park. So at 4-1, I like Mookie Betts for my first Dinger Tuesday pick of today.
Yeah, you got to start with, Christian Yelich hit against Louis Varland. You got to go back to the well for a second. Hopefully another profitable Dinger Tuesday. Mookie Betts now second in home runs after Tyler O'Neill just went yard a few moments ago in Boston, Baltimore. Sean, you're up. Your favorite strikeout prop. Where are you going?
Yeah, so I'm going with Chris Bassitt, under 5.5 strikeouts. You can get it at plus 115 right now. But his K percentage has taken a slight hit. It's down to 19% to begin the season, and it'll be hard for him to maintain a K rate that high with a swinging strike rate of just 6%, which is a career low right now. He's also getting called strikes at a career high rate of 23% right now. Both factors make him a prime regression candidate right now, and someone I just want to invest in is under. And his lower whiff rate so far does look fairly intentional. He's throwing his sinker 46% of the time right now, up from 39% last season. That's obviously a pitch he uses just to, get the ball in play. He's only generated a 9% whiff rate so far with this sinker. So I'm projecting him with about a 59% chance to stay under 5.5 strikeouts. So the fact that we're getting plus 115 here is a nice bonus. If you're watching this later and you missed out on a good number, this is when you might be able to get a similar price in game. The Mariners 3 to 6 hitters could be a problem today, especially the first time facing Bassitt. So I wouldn't be shocked if he has a couple strikeouts through 2 innings. But he has a pretty sharp drop off in terms of K percentage the second and third time through the order. So this is one where, maybe after Cal Raleig's first at bat, I think that might be a good time to reinvest in him with his live K prop under.
Already anticipating that Cal Raleigh strikeout and at bat one, but I don't want to reopen old wounds, Sean, because yesterday, quite literally one of the most wild beats I've seen. Nestor Cortez, 94 pitches, brought out in the 8th inning, threw another inning, got his strikeout to go over, which obviously you had given out his under. But
Yeah.
it kind of brings into the point with a guy like Chris Bassitt as well, and that's pitch counts. And obviously, early on in the season, a lot of guys are on pitch counts. That's why Anthony, I, and Sean are all on Sonny Gray's strikeout under tonight because he's only going to throw 65 pitches. But I'm curious, how you kind of navigate and try to project through the amount of pitches allowed to be thrown. And obviously, you can't foresee a guy in the mid-90s to come out for another inning. But just in general, maybe unveil a little bit in the process and how you go through that.
Yeah, obviously that was a tough beat, but we all learn from our mistakes. I don't know if we could have foreseen him throwing 102 pitches because his season high last year was 101. So that's just a bad beat. To be honest, I lucked out with Freddie Peralta, and Dabbundo and I lucked out with Dylan Cease getting yanked a bit early last week. So it goes both ways. But it is a good point. The first couple starts of the season, most pitchers are going to be capped at 85 to 90 pitches. So I was targeting unders knowing that. But now that these pitchers have made a couple starts, we're really going to see that cap lifted, and they could be making, a season high in pitch counts right now. So I'd be careful, when taking an under with that in mind. But in terms of Bassitt, he could easily go over 100 pitches here, but I'm more fading, his strikeout rate, his swinging strikeout is way low. He's throwing the sinker a ton. So I'm kind of planning that. And when I run my sims, there are scenarios where they do have, way more pitches than I expect. So that's kind of being factored in, but that's a great point. And this time of year is when we see pitchers, really have no limitations when it comes to their pitch count.
Yeah, and luckily Chris Bassitt isn't exactly a flamethrower. And if you throw it in the 6th and 7th inning, he's not throwing 98 cheese high up in the zone. But all right, we'll go to Anthony next, his second Dinger Tuesday prop here. Anthony, you're going to that Cubs San Diego Padres game where last night we saw, an incredible comeback and capped off by a go-ahead home run by the guy you're also targeting tonight.
Yeah, something very interesting happened last night, which was that Fernando Tatis hit a ball 116.7 miles per hour, which is the hardest hit ball of the major league season, hardest hit ball of his career, and back to what we saw him do pre-injury, pre-steroid suspension. So he missed all of 2022. Last year, he did not hit a single ball harder than 113.4. I think there's signal in the fact that he's hitting, balls as hard as he did pre-injury, and I think that's meaningful for his power upside. And San Diego is playing differently this year. They changed the batter's eye. There was a lot of complaints in the offseason from the Padres hitters about issues hitting in their home park, and it really manifested itself in the park factors. It was a bottom 5 park for hitters, top 5 pitchers park. They changed the batter's eye, and the sample is tiny, but it's playing much more friendly to hitters this year. 5-2-1 to the over at Petco this year, over by over 3 runs per game on average. There's been a lot of high scoring games there, and the park factors on StatCast back it up, playing like a top 6 or 7 hitters park in the first weeks. I don't think it's necessarily going to play that extreme, but I think there is some offensive upside that maybe the market's not capturing in both Tatis and the ballpark tonight. Gets Ben Brown, a rookie with elite stuff, great curveball, really good fastball that plays up to 96, 97 on the gun. But gave about 1.1 homers per 9 in AAA last year. Dominated lower level pitching, but did have a little bit of a home run problem, right around average in AAA. So projects around 1.3 homers per 9 in the big leagues. Think it's slightly worse than league average, but not terrible for Brown. But either way, this is really a bet on Tatis's upside at plus 380, and on the park playing just a little bit differently now that maybe hitters can see better.
Yeah, can you just expand a little bit more on the batter's eye, maybe for the guys at home that hear that phrase batter's eye, but doesn't actually know maybe what went on or how that kind of helps a batter?
Yeah, I mean, if you're standing at home plate, right, they want to have a very uniform thing in center field behind the pitcher so that you can more easily pick up spin That's the main thing, and pick up the ball off the pitcher's hand. And there had been a complaint. They had changed the batter's eye a couple years ago in San Diego, and they changed it back to kind of closer to what it was. And this was something that was talked about in the preseason. So it's not necessarily excuse making. Some people will say, oh, they're making excuses for how bad they were with runners in scoring position, how much they underachieved offensively last year. But when they talk about how much easier it was to hit in their home park, right heading up into the season, they were picking up balls better even during batting practice. Now it's interesting to me that you see the results immediately and you start to believe, okay, maybe there was something there, that they're able to better pick up the ball off the pitcher.
And just quickly also Ben Brown, right? These only made 2 big league starts. How do you kind of go through, maybe unveil the process for a casual bettor as well, trying to figure out if this guy plays up more for more home runs or the reversal happens and how do you kind of sift through a minor league pitcher making such early progress without a lot of a sample size?
Well, one of the metrics we love to use is Stuff Plus. And if you've listened to Payoff Pitch with Sean Zarillo, we went through the whole slate or most of the slate today. We talk about Stuff Plus a lot, and it's instructive because you can tell me, okay, the guy throws 97, he has a curveball that moves at this thing, but it's hard to really understand and get into like the nitty gritty of how much spin he's getting on his curveball or how many whiffs is he getting against AAA guys. Okay, but those are AAA guys. So looking at Stuff Plus, which standardizes the pitch shapes, the pitch velocity, and the pitch movement, and saying, okay, what's league average? Where does this guy compare to league average?
Yeah.
Well, Brown's curveball is a 150 Stuff Plus. That's 100 is considered league average. It's not necessarily 50% better. It's not quite how it works, but it gives you an instruction that, hey, he already has a top 10 curveball in all of baseball. Whether or not he's thrown one major league inning or 0 or 120, we know that his curveball can be this good. The problem with Brown, and this shows up in his numbers, is that he just kept walking a lot of guys. So he doesn't always know where the stuff is going, but if he can refine his command, we see the upside in his fastball and his curveball.
Great. Thank you. And, hopefully a lot more runs coming to San Diego. There was last night, no shortage of offense. Hopefully the same happens. I love Fernando Tatis, so always rooting for him to give a little flair and a scream. But Sean, college basketball season's over. We're still running this little 3-man weave between us 3 right now. I'm going to kick it back to you. We got 2 Dabbundo dingers. Now we need a second strikeout prop.
Yeah, so my second strikeout prop is going to be Josiah Gray over 4.5 strikeouts at -128. And Gray saw his K percentage jump up over 25% last year after it was back in September when he modified his delivery to the shortened sidestep one that he's using to start the season. And his K percentage is back down to 21% after his first 2 starts. But the underlying metrics are still there to support him going back over 25% like we saw at the end of last year. He has a solid 14% swing strike rate right now. Now, obviously, his walk rate just continues to be his main issue. However, his first pitch strike and zone rates are currently at career highs. So I do think we could see his walk rate start to go down a bit if he can keep that up. And he's always had a low called strike rate, mainly due to throwing it out of the zone. But I think we should see a boost here today with the Giants. They've swung at pitches in the zone at the second lowest rate, so I think that's going to be a sneaky way to help Gray's K rate to go back up a bit. He also might face up to 5 left-handers in the Giants lineup today, but he really has no platoon splits in his career, so I don't think something like that will matter too much. And after 2 brutal outings to start the season, I think he's going to bounce back with a solid start today. He has a insanely unlucky 4.464 BABIP to start the season, so I think he's going to see some positive regression in many facets today, and I'm projecting him closer to about a 65% chance to clear over 5.5 strikeouts, and I think he has some pretty good upside in that market today.
Yeah, love this look here. And you mentioned with San Francisco in general, they're bottom 10 in strikeouts percentage against right-handed pitching. They're actually second against lefties, which is pretty interesting. I guess when they throw in all the lefties, they still are not able to, not strike out as much. And you mentioned Josiah Gray's kind of change in his stance. He's in the 73rd percentile of all pitchers in whiff rate now, which was kind of an issue last season, getting those swings and misses. So best of luck to you both guys. Anthony Dabbundo, Sean Koerner, thank you so much for hopping on. Sean Koerner's 11-4 plus 6.323 units on strikeout props this season. So hopefully no Nestor Cortez bad beats on the way.
Well, it looks like Josiah Gray was just scratched, so that's not going to be a play.
Well,
So
looks like we got
we'll find
all
something
right.
else.
Yes,
We'll
but look,
find something else.
be sure to follow Sean in the app at @the_oddsmaker. He'll be able to give out more strikeout props. He'll try to find something else. So
Yep.
best of luck, guys. Thank you so much for hopping
Sure.
on. And this is just live programming, so things happen.
Yep.
And it's time. Just 2 days away from Augusta National. The Masters is right around the corner. So here are some storylines to watch out for. Rory McIlroy looking to complete his Grand Slam, still missing that Masters championship. He sits at 11-1 to win. And Scottie Scheffler, the run that he is on, the shortest favorite in the field at plus 450, the lowest odds since Tiger Woods back in 2013. Woods was plus 350 in 2013 at Augusta. And then Tiger, of course, we have to talk about him. The longest odds of his entire career to win the Masters. The only tournament he's played in this season has been the Genesis, where he withdrew in the second round. He did not complete the Masters in 2023 after making that cut. And with that, we welcome in Spencer Aguiar, talking Masters. We talked last week about, just everything in general leading up to what you were looking out for leading up to the Masters. Now, I do want to ask you, we saw Scottie Scheffler. He is playing the best ball or golf of his career right now. 2 wins in the last 3 tournaments he's played in, including a top 2. I'm curious how you look to bet him, right? He's the outright favorite. He's been incredible of late, probably the best ball striker we've seen since prime Tiger Woods. You looking to bet him at all? Can you get behind such a small price?
I mean, I will say this, Charlie. I think it's a warranted price, but it's one of those tricky situations where markets have removed a lot of that potential exposure against Scottie Scheffler. They're not listing him at, quote unquote, what a model would indicate is a reasonable price with it. There are so many weeks where they continue to fall victim over and over again to top 5 after top 5 finish. And I think when that happens, at some point you have to remove the exposure from the mix that you're getting with him. Like, my model has him as the projected favorite in all areas of the market. I argue that any of the factual value comes in the sectors probably where you can oppose him, just because markets have moved on in such a massive contrast from where it should be with it. I'm not going to go that route because, as I said at the beginning, I do think this is warranted where Scottie is the best player in the world, and you don't have to look any further than the ball striking returns that he's putting together. There's a lot of players historically. Jordan Spieth would be a prime example of that, where my model never necessarily was in love with some of the production totals that he was putting together, and it was expecting this regression to take place, like the prime version of Spieth there. Scheffler, for 3 years now, even before this onslaught that we got of victories where he started winning, it was propelling him up my sheet as the best player in the world. And once the wins started rolling in, they haven't stopped, and these top 5 finishes have just gone onwards every single week with it. So I'm hoping he doesn't beat my outright card, Charlie. That's one of those spots where I'm going to sit back and I'm going to hope for the best in that area. But he's the most dangerous person in the world right now in the world of golf.
Yeah, the last few years, he won the 2022 Masters, finished top 10 last season, only probably going to go up from that top 10 entering this year, given the form that he's in. But let's play a little game here. We're going to go mild, medium, spicy with the Masters. We got to talk about everything from, the short ends of the sticks to the long shots. Give me your favorite mild bet when it comes to an outright winner in this field.
So the very first outright ticket that I placed this week was on Xander Schauffele at 22-1. That number has moved since then into that 16 to 18-1 range since reopening on Monday. I still argue that there's still value to be had in that price. Charlie, I know what I'm signing up for when it comes to my outright card this week. Like, the public disdain is going to turn a wager like Xander into one of those I told you so rebuttals if he ends up failing. It is much easier to punch a ticket on a reduced price name that has maybe won a major championship, won a Masters, and you're paying that tax with that built-in part already into the mix there. There's probably 5 or 10 names that we could directly name when given that answer, but people, I have noticed historically, and I think this is why books do it, are more willing to overpay and feel okay doing so if it doesn't work out than get caught in one of these webs by looking bad by going against the perceived grain. Like, I get all of that, but that's also how value comes into play. And that's what I saw this week inside of my model with Schauffele. He placed first for proximity over 200 yards in 2024. He was also inside of all of these additional categories: proximity from 150 to 175 yards over a 2-year running perspective. With that, expected par 3 and par 4 scoring, weighted scrambling, and then the projected strokes gained total. All of those returns, we talked about how great Scottie Scheffler has been. All of those returns placed ahead of Scottie Scheffler here. So I get the risk. We're talking about a golfer, hasn't won on the PGA Tour since July of 2022, but I'm going to go into that PGA Tour leading 42 consecutive made cuts. He has those 3 top 5 finishes over his last 4 events. I really believe this tells an entirely different story than the market opened at here. And I think there's rhyme and reason behind why this has been one of the sharper moves down the board, more into the 16-1 range now.
Yeah, I want to focus in a little bit more on Schauffele because, I mean, you have such high words for him, obviously, based on what you're projecting for him comparatively to Scottie Scheffler. And I mean, there's some sayings that go on, like death taxes and Xander Schauffele top 10s at the majors. He has 11 in the majors in his history, 0 wins. He's had 2 top 3s at Augusta, top 10 last year. I want to ask you, right? Say you have a 22-1 ticket. Say I get an 18-1 ticket. Then I'm sitting there on Sunday and I'm watching him atop the leaderboard. A guy like Scottie might be a stroke or 2 away, or whoever it is. I get a little deja vu seeing him not be able to finish strong at the end of the majors or tournaments in general. Are you looking to hedge out at all on that Sunday, or would you be? Or is this one of those, I'm just going to ride it, and if I die, I die,
I think people hedge for 2 reasons. The first would be that they probably didn't believe in their bet initially, and they've always been looking for a reason to get out. You might have value at the number to begin with, but as soon as you get a moment to exit the game, you're trying to find a way out of it. I think the second reason is because people overexpose themselves with too much risk up front. That's these wagers that get placed where they're either betting more than they would like in some of these spots, maybe with that mentality to begin with that they're going to hedge out. But golf is really difficult. You have to have such an exact scenario to fully hedge out of the bet. Like, it's different here if we're talking about adding an additional runner on Sunday. If there's value there in the number, you have Xander at the top and there's somebody 2-3 shots off the lead. That's 7-1 that you think you're getting a right price on to jump into the mix there. That is okay. I don't even consider that a hedge. That's just like adding additional portfolio or things into your portfolio there. I am never going to be the person that's purely hedging as a buyout situation. Like, I'm not going to take the cash out ability on Xander. Like, I'm making this wager. I know what I'm getting into here. I know that he hasn't closed the door in the past in tournaments that are much smaller than the Masters, unfortunately. But I think the thing for me that I am most intrigued by is, and I'll keep this answer short so we can move the show along a little bit, but there is something that I run in my model that is just aggression. I've talked about this with you last week in a little bit, just talking about pure aggression totals. Players that are aggressive that maybe haven't gotten the exact outcomes that we would expect in these situations. Xander, for me, third in my model in expected aggression. So he is going and trying to win these golf tournaments. It's just not getting put together in the fashion that you would want. And I think at some point that if you put yourself in a position enough times, which Xander is, and you don't have that scar tissue that comes into play, which is fingers crossed what I'm hoping we have here, that we don't have here in this situation. Like, I think Xander has the aggression and the maturity at this point to potentially get across the finish line. So I will be sticking on my ticket for better or worse with that answer.
Yeah, no PTSD for you when you see he's on hole 16, maybe a stroke ahead of Scottie Scheffler. You're not like, I might need to get out of this. But let's go on to your medium bet here. You're keying on a guy that you bet as an outright the last time we were together on the show as well, and that's Matthew Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, Matthew Fitzpatrick, 50-1. I also think it makes a ton of sense to back him inside the top 20 market at plus 120 or plus 130. Back-to-back finishes inside the top 14 at this venue over the past 2 years. And that's before we even begin to highlight the speed training that he's done over the last handful of months to increase to his driving distance totals. My model saw that it skyrocket him with the driving data every single way that I've run it. And I think the biggest takeaway that I want everybody to truly take in here is, I know some of these recent results have been inconsistent. The more recent stuff has been better, but there's a really straightforward solution to this problem. Fitzpatrick is very meticulous. And this is why this answer is even as bad as it is here, but he added a 4-gram weight to his driver almost a year ago when he won the RBC Heritage. That was all for, speed training and all the stuff he was doing here and trying out different things. He forgot to remove it up until the waste management this year. So a lot of this up and down results with his driver have really been, I would account to that being the problem there. The data is going to tell the entire story. Since he's removed the weight, he's gained 0.91 strokes off the tee per event over the past 6 starts. You can compare that to losing 0.875 in the 8 appearances before that. So tell me that we now have a golfer that has driving distance to the mix. We know about the short game acumen and how he achieves and finds success on these harder scoring courses. There is a real possibility here that he captures his second major. I thought when this opened at 50-1 and even at the 40-1s that it's at now, I think this is probably one of the better prices on the board that you can find.
This is why you're the expert here. When he's making up those little changes here to get, an extra couple of strokes gained. And you mentioned Fitzpatrick, just how well he's done at times in the past, top 20 in each of the last 2 years as well at Augusta. So it's not a course that he struggles with. It's one that he's done well in that short game, as you mentioned. But let's move to the long shots here, the spicies. And I would be remiss if I interrupted you, didn't allow you to give your spicy pick yet and talk about Tiger Woods, because I think everyone that is a golf fan is going to sit on their couch and they're going to watch Tiger. He's going to be in the featured group everywhere you look. And right now it's his longest odds he's ever had to win a major. I'm just curious your thoughts in general on attacking him. Is there any way to, or is it just one of those sit down, watch TV, root on for maybe a miracle to happen and Tiger to make a run?
I would enjoy Tiger Woods playing professional golf tournaments at the biggest stage. I will say nobody understands the nuances of Augusta National better than he does. I think for me, though, the biggest worry comes into play, and we saw this happen last year. There's always the potential that he makes the cut and he's forced to withdraw because of injury or whatever pops up. My model thought he was going to make the weekend. There's always that potential that you can bet him to make the weekend if you want to have some exposure to him. But for me, it's kind of like, I think we get a made cut out of him. We've gotten that historically, and what the actual upside is from there is probably capped, and what the actual performance will be is probably anybody's guess. Like, he's not playing enough golf for where I would feel comfortable with him in contention. If he gets into contention over the weekend, I know we're talking about like women's college basketball and Iowa and all this stuff with Caitlin Clark where you're getting all the ratings there. Tiger will do the same thing for golf that Caitlin Clark has done for women's college basketball or women's basketball in general. So I am hoping that Tiger is in contention. It makes for must-see TV when it happens. I just don't know where the health is. It's kind of one of those question games there where there's no real answer.
Right. You mentioned last year he made the cut, then had to withdraw on the next day. And this past season, he's just had one start that was Genesis, and he had to withdraw as well. So the health is always a concern with Tiger Woods. But you do have a guy that you're looking to play in this 150 to 200 to 1 range, as far as maybe even a placement finish. Let me know who it is.
Yeah, Harris English 175 to 1. You kind of noted it best. I think this is probably best suited to be played as a top 20, more in that plus 345 range. So I write an article every year. It's called The 7 Deadly Sins. It essentially takes the 7 things that you can't do at Augusta if you want to capture the green jacket. And then it narrows down the field to around 7 to 10 players every single year that I run it. So I've published that article for 5 years so far. It has gone 5 for 5 incorrectly, narrowing down the list. You're going to get all those expected players here. Scottie Scheffler, Jon Rahm, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele. That's one of the reasons why I'm so high on him. But there was only one name that creeped onto that list outside of 100 to 1 on this board, and that was Harris English. I know the Valeris Texas Open worried some people last week after he provided a miscut performance, lost 4.3 strokes ball striking, but I always talk about this, Charlie, and I think it comes into play here. When you get overcorrections to the market because of a one-off result, and I know the course history doesn't necessarily push you in that area for people to want to bet Harris English also, I think we just have a reduced price tier or a heightened price tier where there is real ability to get exposure to him. 4 top 21 finishes. Before that blip on the radar in Texas, he's averaged 3.35 shots tee to green during those starts. We're also going to get this short game mastery from within his profile. He was a top 10 producer for me in expected short game metrics against the field. I also think there's something to be said. He's been playing Augusta since 2014. There's been 4 appearances there. He's never gotten the play in back-to-back years. This is the first time that he actually gets a chance to build off of what he did last season. Maybe that familiarity with him will help a little bit. I like Harris English this week as a placement bet, and maybe we can even work this a little bit further up the board into top 10s and potential win equity if we really want to take a long shot here.
Plus 345 to finish inside the top 20 at Bet365. That sounds like money to me. I love taking those long shots. And I think that everything you said kind of makes sense here. And especially the familiarity. I think that that definitely will loom large for a guy that, you know, you need consistency on any course in general, just knowing the knowledge of everything. And the greens, I've been watching videos on just how crazy they are, the up downs, just, you know, you need to have a sense of familiarity. You need to learn each hole just by experience played. So that's your mild, medium, and spicy. I can't let you go, though, without your best bet in general. So you're, you know, taming back a little bit, going with a matchup. You've been money at those in the past. What do you got for me?
You know, Charlie, it's funny. You made the joke last week of trying not to be the jinx on my matchup bets. And the good of last week, our fate of Lee Hodges missed the cut. The bad, Patrick Rogers played 18 holes, had to pull out of the tournament because of injury. So I'm not necessarily 100% blaming you there, but, you know, I might appreciate if you pull your headphones out before I talk about this play and we actually get into this. But Chris Kirk minus 110 over Eric Van Rooyen. My model seemed to believe that we have a situation here of overall safety versus a very boom or bust candidate of Van Rooyen. I like this a lot better than the play last week because now we have that safety built in. Like I talked about that play last week. I didn't know Rogers was going to pull out of the tournament, but one of the things I noted on that play is it very well might go miscut when it's all said and done. You know, miscut withdrawal is not necessarily how it was drawn up, but I like the safety that we get with Kirk. 21st in my model for overall safety. You pit that against Van Rooyen, who lands 57th. That alone puts us in about that minus 120 range of disparity in my sheet. We then get an additional 5 to 10 points of value when I merged in these overall ratings. Kirk 23rd overall, Van Rooyen 61st. I think the projections that like Van Rooyen are going to like it because of the distance that he adds. Like there's a little bit more optimism in the market than my model seems to think, but 83rd for me in this field for projected strokes gained around the green. 76 when reprojecting his totals on these fiery green complexes with the putter. We know about how short game acumen means so much here and the experience of knowing how to get up and down. Like I don't see that in Van Rooyen's profile. I think he has a very low floor here. And when we're talking about a tournament that only has, you know, sub 90 players, and we're going to have to try to find volatility in different ways since the bottom of the board is littered with these amateurs and players that are over the age of 50 that are these guys that are not maybe necessarily in the prime of their careers. I'm trying to find that volatility in an area like Van Rooyen, who his short game is pretty much below every non-amateur in this field for me.
Yeah, so hopefully I'm not the jinx this time. And if I am for 2 straight tournaments, then I might have to print out a picture of Maria and just hold it up as you give out your best bet, because I can't be the guy that's costing you some wins here. But all right, Spencer, let's do something fun here. We got all your picks. We got all your bets. Now we want to talk Masters dinner. And I want to know, if you're the reigning champion, you're coming into Augusta, what are you giving me to eat at the dinner table?
So I would start with Caesar salad, garlic bread. That's usually my go-to everywhere that I go. It's funny, Charlie, like a lot of the live guys, if you look at the menus in the past, they seem to have gotten that right, in my opinion. Like you had Dustin, Bubba, Patrick Reed. They all went in that direction. That's how I would start it also. Give me a filet mignon. I would go mashed potatoes, lobster for the main course. And then I would probably close it out like any assortment of those chocolate desserts, chocolate truffle cakes, all those chocolate sauces, those decadent chocolate desserts that we're talking about. I have a sweet tooth at the end of the day. Like chocolate is my favorite cheat thing to eat. And the more chocolate, the better. Maybe that if I was the reigning champion, you know, too much chocolate for some of these players might end up weighing them down a little bit. I am used to that in my diet, so it wouldn't necessarily affect me there, but that would be my Masters dinner that I would give everybody.
You'd have to, I'd have to back you in round 1 of the tournament if this was your dinner and versus me with the amount that I'm going to fill up. I love the Caesar salad. Love the garlic bread. I think I'd have too much of that before I even had room for dessert. The only critique I'd have on this meal is that I'm more of a New York style cheesecake guy than chocolates, but I love the filet mignon. I love the mashed potatoes. And hopefully, maybe next year you can be the one that's sponsoring the Masters dinner for everyone else. Maybe they all can take a note out of your page. But Spencer Aguiar, thanks so much. Best of luck on the Masters and enjoy the weekend, my friend.
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate it as always.
And over to the NBA, and here's a look at the top 6 seeds in the Eastern and Western Conference. The Boston Celtics have that number 1 seed all locked up, but all eyes are on that 2 through 5. Milwaukee currently the number 2 seed, but everything interesting between the Magic and Knicks, who are fighting for that 3rd seed. And over to the West, the story of the last few games of the regular season. Who is going to get that coveted number 1 seed? Minnesota and Denver currently tied, though Minnesota has the tiebreaker. But Oklahoma City Thunder, they're just 1 game behind. And the Phoenix Suns are in that 6th seed, though they are tied with the Pelicans holding that tiebreak themselves. And with that, we welcome in the man, the myth, the legend, Jay Money to the show. Before we get your picks, I want to focus in on, the last few days of betting, the final week of the season, whether it's motivation, teams maybe resting players, not giving them a full workload for that starting lineup. How do you kind of bet through this? What do you recommend to novice NBA bettors per se, so they can learn more, maybe jump ahead of the lines before these drastic line movements?
Yeah, I definitely say I'd like to start with it. If you like a favorite, you probably want to bet it like as soon as the line comes out. Some of these lines have moved literally 6.5, 7 points, man. But I still feel like you're in treacherous waters betting the NBA in the last few weeks. Motivation is really sketchy in both teams. You kind of just really have to know the situation of the teams. Like I know me personally, I still feel like there's money to be made. I feel like you have to bet on teams that still have something to play for, that are playing for seeding purposes. And there are other teams that you'd like to fade as well that already have their seeds locked up. So if you already have your playoff position locked up, you really have nothing to play for. Obviously, you'd like to get into playoff form, but you still don't want to risk injury as well because they could mess up your whole playoff run there. So I feel like fading the teams that have their seeds already locked up and backing the teams that still have some motivation to play for.
Yeah, and you obviously mentioned toward a team that has everything locked up tonight, and you have a best bet in that game. That's the Boston Celtics against the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks still trying to hold on to that 2 seed. Boston absolutely ran away with the number 1 seed in that Eastern Conference. I'm curious how you look at this game. Obviously, Giannis still a game time decision. Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis also questionable on Boston's side of things. But you'd think that maybe Giannis would make a return or actually play tonight rather than maybe the Celtics giving guys like Kristaps or Horford rest. What do you have in this game?
I feel like the Celtics are, I'm not going to say the perfect team to fade because this is the best team in the NBA, in my opinion, especially on the Eastern. But why would you want to risk injury in this one? This is a team that has true championship aspirations. We know that they hadn't got over that hump yet. They've been to the Eastern Conference Finals multiple times, just couldn't get over that hump. Even made it to the finals and couldn't get over the hump. But I think that this might be the year. And with saying that, they're going to be a little bit of relaxed towards the end of the year. The Bucks have obviously been coming off some bad losses as well. And I think this game means a whole lot more than for the Milwaukee Bucks than it does for the Boston Celtics. They need a confidence boosting win as well after losing 4 straight games, 6 of the last 7. And they're also 3-0 against the spread versus the Celtics this season. One of the few teams that have actually played them really close. So I'll take the Bucks here plus the 2.5, and let's hope that that Giannis plays in this game. Go Bucks.
Yeah, I'm curious just to stick to it real quick with the Celtics. Is this something also where you foresee a potential, maybe Tatum not getting a full 30 to 35, 40-minute workload? Is that like something, or Jaylen Brown per se, just them giving the bench a little bit more opportunities, giving and limiting the chances for injury?
Yeah, exactly. I don't see a full workload. Like I wouldn't be taking Tatum and Brown props. I know they're great players, and I'm sure they would like to play well in this game. But if the game does get out of hand, like if the Bucks are up 10 or 15 going into the 4th quarter, you're not going to see the Celtics going balls to the wall trying to come back and win this game. They literally have nothing to gain from winning this game whatsoever. So, like I said, they are one of those type of teams. They can shoot the lights out from 3 and possibly still win the game. But I would definitely expect you to see some of the bottom of the bench, some guys that doesn't usually play a ton of minutes to play in this game for the Celtics. Like I say, the main thing is you don't want to risk injury here, especially when you have real championship aspirations this year.
Yeah, that's usually my bread and butter, watching these guys off the bench that I watched in college basketball, because that's my favorite sport. Finally seeing them to get some run time here. But you mentioned the Bucks, losers in 6 of the last 7, 4 straight, trying to get back at home against the Celtics with an opportunity for a big win in a motivation spot. So here's the hoping that Dame Dollar can bring J Money a W. Let's move on to the other game, though, you have circled for tonight. That's Oklahoma City. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander returns from a 4-game absence. OKC, I mentioned earlier, they're just one game out of the number 1 seed, also the number 2 seed as well, since Denver's tied there. Phoenix is the current 6th seed in this game, and Sacramento, they're looking to claw their way out of that play-in tournament as well, with a chance maybe to not have to be in that play-in tournament. Where are you headed in this matchup between Sacramento and OKC?
Yeah, well, I do think the Kings belong in the play-in tournament. I think they're possibly going to end up with the 9th seed, in my opinion. This is a big spot for the Thunder in this one. I'm going to lay the 5 with them, minus 115. This is a really great home team. They're 29-8 straight up at the house, 29-14 against the spread as well. SGA is back. That shows me that the Thunder are trying to get into playoff form. I'm hoping that Jalen Williams comes back as well. These are 2 of the most important players on the Thunder. I think they match up well versus the Kings as well. And they still have a chance. They still have an outside chance for the number 2 seed here. So I have a lot of confidence in the Thunder coming out here smacking the Kings up in this one. There's not exactly thunderstorms where I'm at right now, but I'm hoping there's going to be some thunderstorms in this game. Let's go Thunder.
I love to hear that. And it's funny to see 29-8 in Oklahoma City. You wouldn't think that they might be the home team of the entire NBA, but maybe playing OK City. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the Thunder, the weather, like you said, right around the arena that gets the fans going and the opponent's kind of nervous. But you mentioned the Thunder need to get back into playoff form. They've lost 3 of the last 4 without SGA and Williams. Williams still questionable. SGA making his return. A lot of uncertainty here in the Western Conference, even the Eastern Conference. So be sure to follow J Money in the Action app. At J Money is money for all of his plays. Playoff season's right around the corner, so you're going to want to have notifications on. Jay, thank you so much. Best of luck on the play, and hopefully Dame Dollar can bring home some money for you.
I appreciate it, Charlie. We need all the good vibes and positive energy tonight.
Hey everybody, it's Joe Dellera, and I've got a couple of my favorite plays for today's NBA slate. The first play that we're looking at is Jalen Brunson over 37.5 points plus assists against the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls have the 22nd ranked defense in the NBA, and a major problem for them has been that they allow a ton of catch and shoot threes, which is a shot Brunson often finds himself setting up for his teammates. In both games against Chicago this season, Brunson has recorded 19 potential assists, and he's converted on 13 and 11 of them. So if you want to sprinkle a little double-double in there, I don't mind that either. As for the points, Brunson has cleared 30 points in both of these games against Chicago, and Chicago's point of attack defense is specifically strong. However, Brunson has continually shown the personnel simply just does not matter. Brunson has exceeded this line in 54% of games without Randall this season, including 3 consecutive games. I like him to exceed 37.5 points plus assists. For my next play, we're looking at another former New York Knick, though. And we're looking at RJ Barrett under 5.5 assists against the Indiana Pacers. So in this game, the Raptors take on the Pacers, and they will be without Emmanuel Quickley, who has been ruled out due to rest. I'm targeting an under here for Barrett in the assist department. While Barrett will be looked at to score, he just is not really a great table setter. Since the All-Star break, he's averaged 5.1 assists on 8.9 potentials per game. However, the number 1 player that he does pass to on a game-to-game basis is Emmanuel Quickley. Despite the Pacers playing at the 2nd fastest pace in the league, they allow the 4th fewest assists per game, about 25 per game to their opponents. They stay home on their defensive assignments, and they do not double or send help. Although the Raptors assist on their makes at one of the highest rates in the league, they have so few players that can create off the bounce besides Barrett that I expect him to be more of the primary scoring option for the team tonight. Barrett did rack up 9 assists against Denver without Quickley, but he was a bit fortunate in terms of the conversions, and in the other matchup without Quickley as a member of the Raptors, he only had 4 assists against the Los Angeles Clippers. I like RJ Barrett to go under 5.5 assists tonight. So to recap, my 2 favorite plays for the Tuesday NBA slate are Jalen Brunson over 37.5 points plus assists, and RJ Barrett under 5.5 assists. Best of luck on your wagers today, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesdays.
Thanks, Joe. And just a reminder that any picks that we give out here on the show, like the ones you just heard from Joe, you can easily reference by following Green Dot Daily in the Action app. At Green Dot Daily is the handle. We keep track so you don't have to. And that's going to be all for Green Dot Daily. I'm Charlie DiSturco. Thank you so much for coming to hang with us. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to our channel. It really helps. We'll be back here tomorrow at 3 Eastern on the Action YouTube and on the Action app. You guys have a great rest of your day.